Hi, everybody. It is Beyond Your Wildest Genes time this morning, and I'm Dr. Wandalee McPhee, as you know, and my partners here, Dr. Mike and Dr. Noah. We are all three on this morning, which is sometimes a little more difficult to navigate, but here we are. And today we're going to talk about sitting, because what they say is sitting is the new smoking. It is the #1 health risk factor in society right now. And it is a growing concern amongst every generation, not just people sitting at desks, but our students, our kids, the elderly, all generations. No one is safe from too much sitting. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we do around trying to minimize sitting and some strategies that might work for you to kind of balance out, because sometimes sitting is just frankly unavoidable. That's how we make a living, and that's what we need to do our jobs. So there are some strategies that you can do to kind of pull that together, though. So anything you want to add to that to start, Dr. Michael?
I think you nailed it right on the head.
Noah?
What I find ironic right now is that we're talking about sitting, and all three of us are sitting, but none of us have stand-up desks at home. So after this, we will be taking long walks for sure.
Absolutely. So just to kind of put this in a little bit of a context from a health point of view, sitting for 7 to 8 hours a day, here's the stats. It's a 50% increase in mortality from all causes. So every reason that you could possibly cease goes up another 50%. 147% increase in cardiovascular disease, 50% increase in lung cancer, 30% increase in colon cancer, about 100% increased risk of diabetes. So it is just everywhere. And none of us are really immune to that, no matter what our genetics may or may not say. It's going to increase our risk. And this is something that we can control, because the good news is for every 6 hours of sitting, about 1 hour of moderate movement and exercise can cancel out those risks. So you can do your own math. If you sit for 8 hours a day, you need about 1 hour and 15 minutes of moderate exercise to balance that out. It doesn't have to be all at once. It could be spread out through the day. You park a little further away from the door, so you have to walk a longer bit in the parking lot to get to your office or the grocery store, or whatever the case may be. You take part of your lunch hour to move, walk stairs instead of taking the elevator, things like that you can start to incorporate. And we've all got some other ideas of how we do that in our own lives that we're going to share today. So Mike, what are a couple of things that you do? Because I know as chiropractors, we don't sit a lot other than our paperwork time and sort of office management stuff. But doing BYWG here online, a lot more sitting. So what have you found works?
I just want to touch on something that you just triggered in my mind. So let's look at our culture and our society for a minute. I think it was after World War II, more and more people entered the workplace. So you're talking 70 some odd years ago. And in that time frame, 1940s, 1950s, you didn't see the prevalence of people with back pain, obesity, and everything else. And what changed was something Noah and I were talking about on Tuesday in our Health Coaching Academy, is that the average American spends 30 hours a week watching television. And what are they doing when they're watching television? They're sitting. So now you have your 7 or 8 hour workday laid on top of another 3 to 4 hours a day of sitting
and commuting. And adding commute in there.
And commuting, yeah, exactly. So you're talking, we may as a society be sitting for half of the 24 hours in the day. So some of the things, and I just interviewed for our Beyond Your Wildest Genes podcast, Ryan Muncie, and one of the things that he's great at pulling out some research. What he does is called 20-20-20. He works at the computer for 20 minutes. He stands up after 20 minutes and takes a walk around for about 20 seconds, and then he looks at something in the distance, because what happens with that, with the sitting and looking on a computer screen, is it affects your eyes. It causes eye fatigue, and then you start to strain and you lean forward and you're squinting, and then you're getting all this up here in addition to the low back. So what I've been is more mindful, especially because for our Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, we are sitting a lot. And as chiropractors over the last 20 plus years, we don't sit really much at all. But for Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, we're sitting all the time, creating courses, having podcasts, doing live streams. We're sitting much, much more. So it definitely affects us. So what I'm trying to do is be mindful every 20 minutes, get up and kind of like rebooting your computer.
That's a great idea. That's one thing I suggest often to patients too. And if you're anything like me, you get focused on a project and next thing you know, you look up and it's been 2 hours later, and that is just crazy.
Yep.
But I actually start by setting an alarm on my phone.
Yes.
Or on the computer or some way, but on the phone is easiest for me. I have it sitting here. I just set a 20-30 minute alarm and make sure that that goes off so that you can get up and remember to get up, or at least stretch and sit back down again after a few seconds. You don't have to stop, but you do need to take that little break. So that's a great tip. What about you, Noah? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, a few things. One thing that Mike brought up, and I thought it was a good baseline leading me into another topic, that for every minute, Mike, it's about 100 steps.
100 steps, yes.
100 steps. So that's a good baseline, but it seems like every other live stream we do, I'm beating the drum for some sort of tracker, some sort of fitness tracker, whether it's your iPhone itself, which has to be on your person at all times if you want an accurate number, whether it's a Fitbit or a Whoop or an Oura Ring. It's really hard to determine how much you're walking without a fitness tracker, for sure.
Absolutely. Mine is on my watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is fun to have your phone, when you're, especially if you're on vacation, maybe not wearing your watch. You usually have your phone on your person if you're walking around, and it's good to have that as a backup too.
Yeah. So tracking is important. Without a doubt, tracking is important. For me, walking in the spring, summer, fall, piece of cake, getting what we recommend, the 10,000 steps a day. Really, really easy. Wintertime, a little bit more challenging. I find that I have to be much more aware of how many steps I'm getting. I have to sometimes get on the treadmill 10 or 20 minutes in a day to make those 20 steps, or park farther away, like you said, or do these little types of things to get enough steps in. But in the summertime, or when I'm tinkering around in my garden, forget it, it's a piece of cake, or cleaning my pool or whatever I'm doing. The one thing that I do too, again, in the spring, summer, and fall, that I heard Dr. Mercola say, which I thought was really cool, is, and he lives by the beach, and he reads copious amounts of books and research articles, and he uses a Kindle, and he literally walks while he's reading, and he gets enormous amounts of steps in. So what I started doing last year in my backyard, when I'm reading a book, is I'll go out in my backyard with my bare feet, and I'll walk, and I'll read, and I'll walk, and I'll read it, and I'll read, and I'll just add a lot of additional steps just by doing it. Because if not, I'm reading sitting down, like what we're talking about today. So that might be something that you can consider, whether you live by the beach, or whether you have a backyard, or whether it's outside. And then you get the added benefit of walking barefoot, grounding, just like the added benefit that Mike said about looking far in the distance. So much of our biology is dictated by what we perceive through our eyes, what we see through our eyes, what the light we receive through our eyes, and not to mention all the problems we have from eye strain and even things like macular degeneration and stuff. It's constantly looking at screens only 6, 10, 12 inches away, as opposed to using your eyes, what they're really made for, like an eagle, to see far away things. So I think in the context of walking, you could do a whole host of other things, like getting appropriate sun, using your eyes better, and reading and grounding, and really get these profound effects, and kind of using your time wisely and combining things, as opposed to doing everything separate, and really using a lot of time. And anything that I could do in combination to save time is something that I really look forward to do and try to do as much as I possibly can.
Cool. And of course, walking isn't the only version of moderate exercise. I mean, walking, moderate exercise, it's brisk walking, so about 3 kilometers an hour, or 3 miles per hour, rather. Sorry, Canadian coming out of me there. It could be bicycling. It could be active yoga, like not yoga nidra, where you're falling asleep on the mat, but like active yoga. It could be a sport. Maybe you play pickleball or tennis, or you're involved in a particular team sport. You know, all of those things count. So the easy one is walking, because you can add bits of that into your day on a regular basis. But certainly that's not the only way that you can move to try to get
Cool.
that at least hour a day of balance in there.
So
So
something just popped in my head too. I'm sorry,
sure,
Dr.
shoot.
Wonderly. I know. We all of us have kids in active in athletics and sports, and you know, when they're playing their games, as opposed to carrying your fold-out chair. And I know Mike does this. He walks tens of thousands of steps during Emma's games, and I do the same. I sit very little. I walk and I walk and walk, and that's another way, as opposed to bringing one of those little chairs and sitting down and plopping yourself and watching the game. Move around a little bit and get those extra steps there as well.
Especially if it's practice.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add 2 things. And number one, and it just popped up because Noah and I spoke about it on Tuesday. People love to watch television. It's their way of decompressing. And if, let's say, we know people are sitting for extended periods of time, get up during the commercials. We know that commercials are 8 minutes per half hour, 16 minutes per hour. So if you can get up and walk at each commercial, you're going to start to accumulate these steps, as opposed to just being sedentary. The other thing that I wanted to add to this is creating habits. BJ Fogg just wrote not Atomic Habits, small, tiny habits.
Tiny.
And what he recommended in starting habit formation is you could get up and do like 2 squats for every time that there's a commercial, or every time you go to the bathroom. So that really starts to help mitigate some of this sitting all the time. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Wonderly, what's pickleball?
Oh, I know. You don't know.
You've got pickleball.
The fastest growing sport in America.
Never heard
Especially
of it.
over 45. It's perfect.
Never
for you,
heard of
Mike.
it. What is
You
it?
got to get the pickleball thing going.
What is pickleball?
It's a
Tennis.
racket sport. Yeah.
Oh, it's played with a pickle?
No, I don't know why they call it pickle. Someone
I
should
like
log
pickles.
in and tell us why it's called pickleball, because I have no idea why it's called that. I just know it's incredibly popular.
I like pickles. And now there's a pickleball.
The net is lower than tennis.
Okay.
It's tennis for old cats, man. That's what it is.
And you're hitting the ball with a pickle?
It's a racket. I don't know why it has pickle in it. Someone has got to put a comment in there about why they call it pickleball, because I'm sure there's a story behind that we are unaware of. The other thing I'm going to put in the comments below is, measuring, like Noah said, is important. The measuring on the plus side. Shockingly, the measuring on the minus side, though, is really critical, because often people underestimate how much sitting they really do.
Yeah.
And step 1 is to keep like a little bit of a log for a few days. And I'm going to put that slide up so that you guys can see what we're talking about. And, sitting when you eat, sitting when you commute, walking or watching TV, driving to your kids to sports, all of those things add up, not just the work sitting. So fill out the little chart and see how much you truly are sitting. You will probably shock yourself, and hopefully shock yourself into taking some excellent action steps. But 99%, I guarantee, are underestimating how much sitting they're doing. And we want to start with, motivating you to make a few little changes, and then giving you these easy things that you can do to make it better. So that's all I got.
Well, the final thing in terms of what you're saying, for the Aura Ring calculates how much inactivity time you have. So that's essentially sleeping, and it also shoots your notification on your phone. Um, um, and it's basically, do you think you should maybe stretch your legs a little bit? You know, because you might be sitting after. I think it's about after an hour, it'll send you a notification. So I don't know if the other technologies do. My guess is they probably do something. But I know the Aura Ring does help you along with that for sure.
Cool.
This probably should give you a shock, and then you'd really get up.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, hints, tips, motivations, ideas?
I think getting up from the sitting position, and Noah just triggered this as well, and stretching. And literally, you could stretch at your desk. Just you can use your seat to stretch, where you're going to stretch side to side. This is show and tell. We didn't know we were going to have this today. You could put your feet apart and sit in your chair and just go down. Am I out of the picture? There we go. Just go down. You could stand. All right. So this is live TV, folks. This is how this works. So you could stand and then pull your opposite leg behind you and pull that straight back. That really helps to get the hip flexors. That's what gets really tight. These muscles in front. That's some really good tips.
As part of both our being Superman and getting to Goddess, there's a whole section on sitting and exercises that you can even do at your desk. I mean, obviously you want to get up and move too, but stretching out, protecting your spine, protecting your body, stretching is a really good part of that as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. So Noah, do you want to close us out here? We are.
Yeah, one thing, we challenge you to get your 10,000 steps. Let us support you and help you in any way possible. Send us your comments, your thoughts. Let us support you in your 10,000 step journey and be awesome and never unawesome.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Talk
guys.
to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.